You've collected the treasures and have played the final helicopter lift to escape the island. You even went so far as survived the drought that was the desert. But now, the series has one more challenge left for you to complete. Forbidden Sky is the final chapter of the Forbidden series, and is easily the hardest of the three to complete. A lot of the terms that we'll be discussing inside of this video are going to be similar in comparison to the other two previous games. If you haven't yet checked out the other two games and kind of want to figure out your ways to step up, I'm going to leave cards inside various courses of this video. But otherwise, this is Forbidden Sky. The biggest difference with Forbidden Sky in comparison to Forbidden Desert and Forbidden Island is the fact that rather than having to manage with flooding tiles or with desert and clearing sand, that is no longer an issue. Hooray! Finally, something that's pesky and annoying has gone away from the game forever. However, this time, you yourself must build the map in order to successfully complete a circuit. Because your objective is now to try to find the rocket that is somewhere out here explored on these tiles, and be able to successfully complete the circuit and be on that pad in order to escape from the sky. As lightning and wind is now your new problems that are inside of this game. So first, let me now transition to the tiles, so that way we can get a grasp of how it is we are to complete our circuit. On the starting grid that you have whenever you begin the game of Forbidden Sky, we have 3 different symbols that you definitely need to keep in mind. The first one here is this lightning symbol at the bottom, and that symbolizes a lightning rod. Whenever this tile is currently in play, and whenever it is added to the circuit, a lightning rod is automatically added once that tile is placed. At the beginning of the game, you're always going to start with at least 1 lightning rod. The blue symbol here in the middle is a teleporter. Whenever you find another tile, aside from the one that you already start with, you can spend 1 action to move from one teleporter to any other teleporter that you have active. On the sides here are small circles that indicate small capacitors. You're going to need small capacitors in order to complete your circuit, but they generally consist of 2 tiles. Any tiles that you find that complete these circles automatically adds a small capacitor to the board. If you've played Forbidden Desert, you already know what this symbol means, but for those who haven't, this is a gear symbol. Whenever this is connected, and only when it is initially placed, then you are able to then draw a gear card to further help you along your adventures. On this top right corner here, that is a large capacitor. When it comes to large capacitors, they're normally going to be separated by quarters, so you need to be able to place 4 tiles in order to create a large capacitor. And large capacitors are most definitely needed in order to complete your circuit. With wind and lightning now being the new challenge inside of Forbidden Sky, there are 2 symbols that can protect you from it if you are on these tiles. The blue circle on the right is a wind shelter. If you happen to be on this tile when the wind blows, you are not affected by the wind. However, you are still affected by lightning if the lightning rules apply. The Faraday cage on the left protects you from lightning. However, wind still has the potential ability to blow you off the platform. The last tile that you need to know about is the landing pad itself, which is indicated by this red outer circle here. Regardless of if you find the ones that have the green on the inside, or if you find the ones with the cloud here, if all 4 pieces are connected together, then that is going to be the location of where you place the landing pad and the rocket. To set up Forbidden Sky, immediately place your landing pad strip in the center of the play area. With the lightning rod symbol in play, you are automatically going to place one lightning rod on top of that symbol. Inside the box, take out the 12 short wires, 4 long wires, 5 lightning rods, 6 small capacitors, and 3 large capacitors, a launch pad, and the rocket, and place it off on the side of the board. If this is your first time playing Forbidden Sky, the needle is going to come in 2 pieces on your landing pad strip. Therefore, you need to assemble and connect both sides in order for the needle to stay in place. If you've played Forbidden Island or Forbidden Desert, you know what to do in regards to separating the storm cards, the gear cards, and setting up the storm marker. However, there are a couple things that I've got to mention that change the way that this game is played in comparison to the others. The first major change inside of Forbidden Sky in comparison to the other 2 games of the series is the fact that the storm meter no longer carries the levels in regards to your difficulty over the course of a game. In fact, the levels are actually dictated by the number of players in the game. The more players that you have, the lower the storm track is going to be. The fewer players you have, the higher up the storm track is going to be. Reality of the matter is, difficulty in Forbidden Sky is now dictated by these blueprint cards, each of which is going to tell you the minimum number of components that you need to complete your circuit, but you are more than welcome to go more than what is required in order to complete your circuit if your team deems it necessary. With your normal difficulty and your novice difficulty, as well as elite and legendary. The rules specifically state if you've played a cooperative game before, or if you've played Forbidden Desert or Island, that you specifically set your card to the normal difficulty, and that is the blueprint that you are going to use. Otherwise, you would play on Novice if Forbidden Sky was the first game you ever picked up. The remaining tiles that are inside of Forbidden Sky are then simply shuffled and placed face down, and each player is going to receive one tile from the top of the stack as their starting tiles. Once the roles have been randomly assigned, as per mentioned in previous entries of the series, and the needle for the wind is indicated pointing down, place both the pawns at the top of this landing strip and you are ready to begin the game. The person who last traveled by air is the one who gets to go first inside of Forbidden Sky, but there are a couple of things that you have to notice with the player cards that are different in comparison to the previous entries. While they of course still have roles and abilities, some of which may have remained the same from the last game, or have been drastically changed, you read, however, there are 2 different sides that you have to keep track of. Taking 2 of the clips from your box, you are going to attach them both to your highest rope level and your highest hearts level. Inside of Forbidden Sky, these 2 means of health are ways to lose the game. If either health or the ropes drop all the way down to the skull, then all players lose the game. Like Forbidden Desert, each player on their turn has the ability to take up to 4 actions. And then, of course, it plays out the exact same in regards to, at the end of your turn, you will draw and resolve storm cards equal to the storm intensity. But what are the 4 actions that are different inside of Forbidden Sky in comparison to Desert or Island? The first action that you can take is to scout, meaning that you can draw the top tile of the tile stack. And most players can only hold up to 3 tiles in their hand at any one time. Movement works primarily the same inside of Forbidden Sky as does it do inside of Forbidden Desert. You have the ability to move from one tile to an adjacent tile, or if you're on a space with a teleporter and there's another teleporter in sight, you can use the teleporter on the space to move in between teleporters. The next action that you can do on your turn is that you have the ability to explore the platform. In order to do so, take one of the tiles that is inside of your hand and place it to an adjacent tile based on where you are located. However, at least one ground wire must connect to your tile. Ground wires are always indicated by the actual printed wires on the tile. As long as at least one of them is connected to the platform, you can legally place that tile in that specific location. If you've completed any parts to where a capacitor, whether it be large or small, is filled, then you automatically have the ability to place it. The last action that you have the ability to do, if you so choose, is to wire. Wiring is going to be important later on, as this is how you're going to complete your circuit. For one action, you have the ability to either add or remove a wire from a component on your tile. Each component inside of Forbidden Sky can only ever have 2 wires connected to it, and no more than that. If you've played Forbidden Desert, you will know that gear cards were freely passed at any time. The same rules still apply inside of Forbidden Sky. Just so long as you are on the same tile, you have the ability to freely pass each other equipment cards. Storm cards inside of Forbidden Sky are mostly similar to the last game, but here's a couple of changes that you need to know regarding each card. First card is a wind's change direction. A lot of times, the wind direction will change according to the clockwise or counterclockwise means on the card. On the actual base platform itself, you're going to see 2 arrows that are going to help remind you of which direction that you're going to turn the arrow based on where it is currently facing, whether it be counterclockwise or if it be clockwise. Storm Intensifies card works the exact same as it did in Forbidden Desert, as it simply just raises the storm meter. Another important Storm Intensifies card, however, is this particular one, as it also has the ability to reshuffle the storm deck, and it will stop you from drawing cards. If the storm meter inside of Forbidden Sky, much like it does with Forbidden Island or Forbidden Desert, ever reaches the skull at the very top, then all players lose the game. The Lightning Strikes card, however, is where things get a little bit more complicated, and is going to directly affect your health in a variety of different ways. The way that lightning strikes work inside the confines of Forbidden Sky is that you are going to first look at any lightning rod that is out on the board. For example, the black pawn here is right beside a lightning rod, because the lightning will always hit the lightning rod first. Because the black pawn is directly at a lightning rod, he is going to take only 1 hit point of damage. Do take this as a side note that whenever you are struck by lightning, and more than one thing might hit you in a variety of different ways, you are only ever going to take 1 hit point of damage. It's not going to stack. Because of the ground wires, aka the wires on the tile actually connecting to each other from the lightning rod, the white pawn also gets struck by lightning because it travels down the lightning rod and goes through those ground wires and hits him. Because of the actual physical wire that we placed in our wiring action, the tile that the blue player is on also gets struck by lightning because it travels down the lightning rod, it goes through the physical wire into the capacitor, electrifying the tile that he is currently on. The only 2 players who are currently safe in this particular scenario are the yellow pawn and the orange pawn, because none of their tiles are directly connected either through the physical wires that have been placed, nor are they connected by the ground wires on the tiles. Remember, the only other 2 sources of protecting you from lightning are the Faraday cages, and sometimes specific items will also protect you from lightning. However, they do not protect you from wind. The high winds card is the card that is going to affect the direction of which the wind is blown. In our current scenario, we see that the wind is blowing down, but let us change it to a scenario as if it were blowing to the left, to kind of explain how wind would work. In this current scenario, the blue pawn is safe from the high winds blowing towards the left, because there is a platform connected to that he can jump onto. Therefore, all he would do is simply move over to the left. However, the orange pawn isn't so lucky. Because there are clouds in between him and that platform space, he simply runs into the clouds and he will lose a rope point. Also, because of our left scenario, if the white pawn gets blown, he loses a rope point, and the yellow pawn also loses a rope point. And just remember, the only things that can protect you from the wind are specific gear and the wind shelters shown earlier on in this video. If you manage to survive long enough to where you can get all of the components ready, and everybody gets to one of the 4 launch pad platforms for when the last wire is placed, something cool should definitely happen. The important thing to remember with Forbidden Sky, especially on this very last section, is that if that rocket takes off and not everybody is on any one of the 4 launch pad platforms, then that player simply got left behind and everybody loses the game. Overall, what do I think of the series as a whole, and what do I think of Forbidden Sky? I think that Forbidden Sky is definitely a far greater step up. I mean, the box itself is bigger than the other 2 in the series due to the number of components that it has. But the one thing that you guys definitely didn't see while I was editing this video was the fact that sometimes the components are a little wonky in regards to sometimes it has to be exactly on the magnets of the wires in order for the rocket to actually light up. And sometimes you'll just have to shift things around. It don't really work exactly first time. But other than that, I think the circuit building is really cool because it still keeps the cooperative element. People keep saying that Forbidden Sky forces you to act in certain ways, and while that's partially true, that's not always the case. There are ways to kind of think around the box and all that sort of thing when it comes to Forbidden Sky, because you're planning how you're building the map. The map isn't already predetermined like it is in Desert. It isn't so simplistic to where it's not even fun at this point like Island is. But honestly, that's just how I feel about it. If I were to compare the series, though, if I were to rank each of the games as far as my personal enjoyment level, honestly, it would have to go in reverse order. It would have to be Sky, Desert, and Island. Contrary to popular belief, that is. But other than that, that's the end of this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell icon, so that way I can constantly share you guys brand new board games for you guys to try out in your own households. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.